Welcome to today's episode of In Chambers with Mohammed Muigai. My name is Patrick Nguri, an associate at the firm specializing in corporate and commercial transactions. In today's episode, we are privileged to have with us the Deputy Managing Partner, Mr. Emmanuel Wetang'ula. Welcome, Mr. Wetang'ula.
Thank you.
As we begin, there is a colloquial term for a person who prefers to stay active and up at night. Is Mr. Wetang'ula a night owl, as many people perceive?
The answer to that will be yes, to the extent that there's a specific assignment that a brief that we are working on, and we have very short deliverables.
Yeah.
Or it could be that we have encountered a difficult situation and we need to find an answer, not often the correct answer, but a suitable answer that solves a solution to a legal problem that a client may have. And why I prefer the nights is the phones stop ringing. People stop calling into your office to sign documents or to consult over something or to say hello. It's an extremely quiet night. It's just you and the chiming of the clock, occasionally reminding you of the hour. So to an extent, yes, the answer is yes. I am a night owl and I work best when everything settles down, when people leave. Yes.
Now that your night routines are rather known, mostly spent at work, how do your mornings look like?
Quite uneventful and actually pretty comfortable. I have to be in the office early to attend to the day's at least one or two matters that I have to appear, and then be able to deal with the other routine administrative work that has to come with it, because the office has to keep running, and then you have to keep doing what it is that you do, which is dispute resolution. You have to attend court, you have to attend to clients, and supervise the people working under you to ensure that the wheel keeps turning. So despite being a night owl, you still have to be in the office early to ensure that things work smoothly.
Quite an eventful morning.
Yes.
I'm sure that is not how it's always been. So where did you grow up? I'm sure it wasn't at the halls of Mohammed Muigai.
Certainly not, but I've also had to do a lot of growing up here because I've spent the entire part of my adult life at Mohammed Muigai. I grew up in Bungoma County, today called Bungoma County, formerly Bungoma District. There's a little village called Kibabii, and even a smaller village called Tuti Market. That is where we grew up, my parents having settled there in the early 90s. The earlier part of my childhood was spent in Bungoma town, where I was born and brought up. Yeah.
How did that influence the person that you become?
Over time, I've come to realize that we are a byproduct of our childhood. You don't see it actually, but as life unfolds, you begin to start to learn that you are either a byproduct or a victim of some of the traumas that you went through as a child. I didn't go through any traumatic episodes, save that in 1990, my parents moved from Bungoma town to the village. It's actually not far, but it was quite remote then. I was in class 5 going to class 6. So we transitioned from a town school, Kandui DEB, which is right next to the airstrip. We go to a village school, which is a mixed primary school. And the biggest shock is in the town, we used to speak Swahili in school. mother tongue was strictly forbidden. But I could speak my mother tongue quite fluently because it's a language that we spoke at home with my parents, with my other family members. Yeah. But we could speak Swahili fluently. But the transition into Kibabi, and then we go to primary school there because it's the nearest school. I mean, you'd always go the school across the road. Yeah. Which is, just across the road, so that the whole neighborhood literally knows you because it's the village raising you. Yeah. But into this new dispensation, we find that our peers constantly speak in mother tongue in school, and it was the first shock that you encounter. Yeah. And but you had to adapt to the change, and then shortly after that 1 year of change, because I think we're not settling in quite well, I transferred to a boarding primary school. This is in 1991. The school is in West Pokot County. Yeah. The school is called Courtroom Boys Primary School. Perhaps the best memories of my childhood were created within that school, and it holds a very dear place in my heart.
So how was that transition from Ortum Boys
from Kibabi to Ortum Boys?
To Ortum Boys and Ortum Boys to high school. Could you tell us a bit more about the transition to your high school?
The transition to boarding school, where you woke up every day in the morning and mom had prepared breakfast. Oh, there was breakfast to have in the morning, and then go to school, come back, do a few chores within the home. Particularly for boys, we were responsible to ensure that when we came back, we had to fetch water to ensure that the animals had drinking water. The animals here being the livestock that my father kept. The few cows, the goats, and the sheep, they had water, and then even water for domestic use because there was no piped water at the time. Apart from that, looking after animals, tending to the lawn in the homestead, slashing grass, sweeping leaves, and attending to other domestic chores. The transition to boarding school is that you have to learn the art of survival and living on your own, far away from home. And I think that change, that transition from Kibabi Primary, from a day scholar to boarding, is what eventually prepared me to have a smooth transition to high school, subsequently university, to study the law degree. But what I would like to say, and perhaps many people don't know, is it took a while for me to settle down. It took a while for me to settle down at Ortum Boarding Primary, because in 1992, I'm in class 7, and then the following year, I'm a candidate for KCP exams. 91, I transitioned to Ortum Boys, class 7. I'm supposed to be a candidate in 1992, sitting for KCP in preparation for transitioning to high school. In 1992 is also the year when I'm deemed by the community to be man enough. I challenge myself, and I go through the traditional rituals for circumcision of the Bukusu community. Yeah, so there were many events happening at the time. And in my... people don't know this. I did sit through my KCP exams, and I scored about 356 marks out of possible 700. That's about 50 points, about an average syllabus. But because that is not what I expected of myself, I opted to retake the exam again the following year. I'd like to pause here and say for a moment that the second choices in life exist, and we should always take them. They are always for the better part. My second attempt at taking the examination, I scored, I believe, 580 marks out of a possible 700, and then I was called to attend. I was admitted to Alliance High School.
That's very impressive. Perhaps you could tell us a little more about your days at Alliance High School, famously referred to as Bush.
Again, a very, very dramatic transition, because here I am from probably the ends of Kenya, West Pokot County, and then Bungoma, the neighboring. There's one county in between, it's Trans Nzoia County. Transition quickly to Kikuyu Alliance High School, again a different culture altogether, where you have to quickly adapt. Here you meet your fellow students who have lived in the city throughout their lives. Their mode of communication is the English language. In fact, the school encourages you mostly to communicate in Swahili, because people don't.
Yeah.
For those of us from the village, we had to struggle to adapt and quickly learn. But we caught up, and by the time we got out again, because now that is the early part of your teens, you're learning the art of making friends, and you start forming ideas about your career choices based on the things happening around you, the influences in your life, and then, so it was quite a great experience.
Yeah. Is there any particular educational path that interested you at Alliance that actually led to where you are right now?
Yes, because of the family influence. I had an uncle. I have an uncle or brother to my dad who was already a lawyer, and quite a successful lawyer at the time. So it was my great desire to study law, and I knew it at a very early age that by the time I was in Form 2, when you start choosing subjects that you're going to study, it played a great influence in the future career choice I was to make. So I was fortunate enough that I knew about it quite early, and this is courtesy of influence from the family. So the apple truly never falls far away from the tree. Yeah.
Did you take up any extracurricular activities or sports? I know you're a very good footballer, often playing the number 10 position. Up to date.
I participated in a number of sporting activities. I played football. I was in the athletics team, running 100 meters, 200 meters, and the relay. We were good sprinters, and we were young, and we never used to train for it. I was the tennis captain in the year 1996 and 1997. I played a little bit of rugby and any other sporting activities. I recall taking part in high jump, even at school level, and what have you. Yeah. So participated in a wide array of sporting activities. And part of it also was in high school. We needed to go for trips. How else will you exit from school if it wasn't for sporting activities? Yeah.
You already figured it out early in life that you wanted to undertake the study in law. And perhaps what were your motivating factors for taking up law as a career, aside from any other profession? Given that back in the day we had medicine, education, and law ranking quite high.
Actually, my father's dream was that he wanted me to be a medical doctor, and until the very last day that I go for matriculation at the University of Nairobi, when we were being admitted in 1999, the month of September, my father still believed, and I had the cluster to study the subject, to undertake the discipline, but it is not something I really wanted to do, and I was driven to study law because of a number of factors. Number one, family influence. I had several uncles who were already practicing lawyers, and they had played a great role actually in my growth and development throughout the phase. I used to converse with them quite a lot. I used to go to my uncle's chambers at Corner House to talk to them. One of them is Timothy Wanyonyi, and the other one is Moses Wetang'ula. And I'll have a chance to have a conversation with them, and I wanted to do what it is that they were doing. I mean, the practical solution of people's problems without necessarily dissecting into them, or where it involves shedding of blood.
Yeah.
But it's just, yeah.
When did you get admitted to the bar, and how do you recall your younger days as a junior advocate?
I got admitted to the bar on the 15th of December, 2005. And it was quite a happy day. It was quite a happy day because after many years, I mean, the long journey of pursuit of the degree and then pupillage and subsequently admission to the bar, it was quite a significant moment because you now get to practice the law and offer your services to the world. The early days were pretty hectic because you're literally at the bottom of the barrel and everything gets thrown at you. And the solutions you needed to churn out were in volumes, and they were qualitative, and they had to be qualitative, and they were coming from different circles. So the workload was quite heavy. It not only involved drafting pleadings, researching, court attendances, and what have you. And you had to constantly be aware that should any situation arise, should any of the seniors not be able to handle a matter, that obligation and burden fell on you. So you had better quickly skim through the files. So in the early years, you could have at least 4, 5, or 7 files at times into the courts. Unlike the system today, when there are virtual mentions, applications, and hearings, you had to carry these files, first of all, physically in court. And then you had to walk across 3 or 4 different courts, look for your colleagues and tell them, this is my file, kindly hold my brief, and so on and so forth. But because the system that we had been prepared in advance, where we used to carry files on behalf of our colleagues, our senior colleagues, to hold brief, it prepared us for it. So you knew how to talk to senior advocates, including the very senior members of the bar today. And because they constantly saw you, they'll be happy to assist you, either place the matter aside, apply for an adjournment where necessary, or take up such action as is deemed to be necessary or convenient.
Perhaps is that diligence that you talk about, the carrying of files as a young lawyer, transiting between different courtrooms, is that what led you ultimately to joining Mohammed Mwigai? Perhaps you could tell us a little more about that.
Yes. Because you're expected to handle and deal with not only litigation matters, but including conveyancing files and commercial files, as on the time when the case arose. So you had to constantly be sharp and ensure that everything was properly done, because at the end of the day, you were the one who bore the responsibility to explain to your seniors what had happened or why it had not happened. And unbeknownst to many of us, you feel at some point that you're being overloaded with work. But in reality, you're being prepared for a future where you will need to multitask and juggle different balls in the air simultaneously, where you have to be responsible for a file, have a client conference, attend a meeting, attend to a client's training, and at the same time be able to prepare for court.
Yeah.
That hardship that you go through is ultimately designed to prepare you for the future that comes, because it's not a walk in the park. Yeah.
So you get admitted to the bar in the year 2005.
Yes.
At what point do you join Mohammed Mwigai? Did you always undertake your training at Mohammed Mugai?
No. I didn't undertake my training at Mohammed Mugai. So I joined the firm of Mohammed Mugai in 2007. By then, the transition is happening. The firm in the process of shifting from Hazina Towers to the current location where the chambers are located. That is when I joined in. Prior to that, I had a short stint as an associate. Was my admission working at the National Council for Law Reporting as an assistant law reporter. And then for a short period of time, I worked with the firm of Nyachai and Ashitiva. And it's during that period when the firm of Mohammed Muigai advocates then had so many matters that they were handling, and they were outsourcing some of the files to outside counsel who had time. I was mostly doing commercial and conveyancing related briefs, but I wanted to be in court. And therefore the late Justice Majanja assigned me some files which I dealt with and I reported back to him. And as the case will be, in the fullness of time, a vacancy availed itself, and I joined the firm in 2007 August as an associate.
Yeah. A story is told that your joining of the firm was as a result of your prowess within the courtrooms. Is that actually the position?
I wouldn't really ascribe it to prowess, because the truth of the matter is many of the people who've trained at the firm and who are at the firm are absolutely excellent in what they do. And a number of advocates who ply our various courtrooms at different structures, from the lowest level of the magistracy, the subordinate courts, to the highest echelons, are excellent advocates. But I wouldn't say it was the prowess, because I'll be tooting my own horn. But the people who were inside looking outside, looking for somebody to fill in a vacancy, probably had their reasons, and I'll be happy if that was one of them that they could see in me.
When did you make a partner?
I joined the firm in 2007, worked for 2 years, became an associate. That is in 2009. I became a partner in 2011.
Yes. So about 4 years thereabout?
Yes. In a span of 4 years, yes, I had become a partner. But actually at the time also, the firm, and as in comparison to the life that we live, a transformation was going on. Events, things constantly change, and for the people, if you are in the journey of life, you have to be present to seize the opportunity sometimes, or you have to be there so that when things fall, you happen to be on the right side. Yes. So within a span of 4 years, I had become a partner.
How about the date that you became a deputy managing partner?
I may not exactly recall the date or year, but it's over a period of time, because at the time when I became a partner, I also became the departmental head of it was called the Litigation Department then. Today it's the Dispute Resolutions Group. And it dawns on you that you're supposed to supervise your bosses, because the litigation department was comprised of my colleagues today, Guto Magere, Jojadis Haseke. Gabriel was young coming through, and then there's Geoffrey Mende, who was a deputy managing partner at the time, but now I'm the head of the department. You're the one responsible for assigning briefs and supervising and reporting to the management how things are going. The other members of the department are the senior partners today, Professor Githu Muigai, senior counsel, and Mohammed Nyaoga, senior counsel. That's when it dawns on you and say, wow, how am I supposed to row this boat with all these big fishes on board. But you somehow find a way. But over time, again, I became the deputy managing partner and had a different role, administrative role to play, in addition to being a member of the dispute resolutions group.
What do you consider to be your greatest strength in navigating your managerial role at the firm?
The calmness and ability to reflect on a situation before making a judgment call. Yes. Particularly on the administrative side, you're dealing with very many moving parts. Some of them will involve disciplinary issues and the mistakes that, the ordinary mistakes that will happen in the course of work, where you're supervising your colleagues whom you have a close relationship with, whom probably you may have had a drink with the previous night, but you wear also the twin hat of being the person supervising them and being responsible to another level above you to whom you're supposed to be held accountable. You're balancing multiple roles to the extent that you're not being lenient, you're not being overly reactive, you're not being too soft, but you're being firm enough to ensure that order is maintained at all times, but with a calmness and firmness to ensure that you always make a fair and reasonable decision for the betterment of, number one, the organization that you are in, yourself. You also have to consider that, and thirdly, the person who's affected, because it's we're humans, we're social beings, and we constantly have to relate with each other. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Wetang'ula, aside from your unique expertise in employment matters and commercial litigation, you have a unique knack for criminal litigation as well. Could you perhaps tell us what makes you tick in that sense?
It's not really what makes me tick. It's just that in the early years, when I joined the firm, I had an experience where one morning we had been preparing for an appeal that was coming up for hearing before the Court of Appeal, and our client had a double conviction for robbery with violence and sentenced to death on two different counts. So the morning for the hearing comes up, and my leader, Professor Muigai, wasn't able to make it that morning. And therefore, I'm thrust in the very deep end of addressing the Court of Appeal judges that very morning. In fact, Prof calls me and tells me, you're equal to the task. You're the one who's researched the brief, you've prepared it, you have looked at the little record that we have in light of the circumstances. You should be able to deal with it. And it was actually, this is in early 2008. It's my first time to walk into the Court of Appeal. And the bench before which I appear is composed of former judges of the Court of Appeal, Riaga Omolo, Justice Emmanuel Okubasu, and Justice Bosire. If you had a chance to practice those days, that was a formidable bench. Yeah. And I literally was asked questions from the word go to the very last submission that I made. The three judges kept shooting questions, and it was baptism by fire. Yeah. But in the process of the preparation for the case, I realized that the criminal practice actually is quite interesting. It's very, very interesting in the sense that you're dealing with constant life issues, and you need to be on your toes. You need to be abreast of all the facts and the status of the law at all times. Yeah. And in comparison to commercial litigation, slightly less fewer documents to peruse through. And most importantly, and I think this is the most important bit, the burden of proof is on the prosecution. So you don't do much heavy lifting if you have knowledge of the case and you develop defense theory early enough in the case. And this evidently becomes clear. And you realize actually that it evidently becomes clear as you begin the cross-examination. The judge handling the matter, no matter how busy they are, they quickly grasp what it is that you're putting forth without stating it in words. You see, unlike in civil litigation, for any defense that you're going to take, you don't ambush the other party. You state it. You set it out in your pleadings. It's set out in your documents. You have an obligation to make that disclosure. But criminal practice develops with the evidence that is presented and the defense theory that comes into existence right from the time when the trial commences, or even before that. Yeah. So as a result of that, I enjoy a little bit of criminal practice. I do at least 1 or 2 cases here and there. And I'll definitely like to do much more than that.
Yeah. Is there any one particular criminal matter that you consider to be your day in the sun?
Not really my day in the sun as such, but perhaps one of the most hilarious moments I've ever had in court, and occasionally I regale my colleagues, my younger colleagues. I'm sure I've told you the story a couple of times of some of the humorous things that happen in a criminal trial that you even ask yourself, is this a comedy session or it's a trial process where somebody's liberty is at stake? Why do I say so? I dealt with a case where a young man has been arrested and arraigned in court for theft by servant or something related to that. But the only offense the young man had done is being young, vibrant, and full of life. He amorously decided not to go home but went to the office to attend to a few of the humanly affairs, and in the process he passed out. And then the office was robbed. So he was found in the morning by the cleaning lady, drunk, naked, and of course utterly helpless, but the office had been ransacked. So the man was charged in court, and our defense was pretty simple, that this young man didn't steal anything. He was attending to all other needs but theft. So and in the process, he became a victim of somebody who had been given stupefying substances. But in the nature of charging the obvious culprits, he ended up having been the person. But he got acquitted in the long run because, if you've passed out in the office naked and the office has been ransacked, laptops stolen, the safes broken into, printers. Those days, there were small desktop printers that were littered on every desk. Have literally been carried away. You'll most likely be the suspect. Yeah.
So aside from being in the office and being at the courtroom, what else do you like to do as a leisure activity when you're not working?
I enjoy reading. I love listening to music. And occasionally, when the situation allows it, I will take a drive. I really, really love driving. I can drive. I've driven to Kigali. And back. So, but I enjoy reading, particularly history. You have seen it. Most of the books I read, historical accounts. I know many people have asked. Some people find it to be boring, but they normally say unless you understand your history, you often you repeat the same mistakes that happened, or you may not know where you've come. You need to know where you've come from so that you know where you're going to. And it dawns on you that many of the events happening in society, the challenges even our institutions are facing, are a creation of history. And it tells you many of the antidotes that we keep providing, it is forgetting to understand this, the origin of these institutions. I'll give you an example. You asked me about the criminal justice system. I'll give you a good example. The policing structure system. On what foundation was it built? It was built to police, to protect elite interests. Elite interests were then the colonial settlers' interests against the native. The native was the indigenous African man. We quickly transitioned to independence. A new dispensation has to come into existence. We are still struggling with the policing structure. There have been multiple changes, including the new constitution. It transitioned from a force. Remember, the term a police force to a service. There's a great deliberateness because a force, what was its purpose? It was meant to clamp down on a specific indigent and downtrodden members of society. And it begins to dawn on you. Who gets arrested when there's a robbery outside? The first suspect is the watchman. And it's until you begin to understand that actually there are people sitting comfortable behind their desks, committing far worse crimes. But they get away with it. But the young man who snatches a purse outside will have the worst of it at the end of the day. He won't even have the benefit of legal counsel. Yeah. And you begin to understand now, unless we firmly understand the history of who we are as a people, where we've come from and where we're headed to and why we want to go there, we will not make it. So the study of history becomes fundamentally important. And currently I'm reading the book on Thomas Sankara. Yes, the revolutionary leader of Burkina Faso. Yeah. The book just recently published. It's an anthology of essays by different people who experienced the short stint when he was president and the effect it has had on the country formerly known as Upper Volta, today Burkina Faso. And you can imagine today, hearken that quickly to today. Burkina Faso is going through a similar transition with a new president, a young president. Incidentally, he also happens to have, he's called Captain Traore. Yeah. It's as if history is repeating itself. But if we do not grasp the importance of these events and seize the moment so as to be able to drive ourselves to a better future, we are not able to better ourselves and humanity in general.
As it's often said, there's nothing new under the sun. I believe that's what you're saying.
Very true. All these events have either happened to somebody else and solutions have been found, or they have dealt with it differently. Or society collectively chooses to bury its head in the sand, like the proverbial ostrich, with the hope that this thing will go away. And lo and behold, it doesn't. It happens again and again and again. So the study of history, the understanding of history, and to this extent, most importantly, anthropological studies, understanding who a people are becomes fundamentally important. So I like reading, I like listening to music, and I'll enjoy a good long drive. Yeah, good long drive. Only problem is our roads are too congested and full of mad drivers that it's not a good experience anymore. You end up with a headache by the time you're done driving to just Naivasha, which is 100 kilometers away. Yeah.
So, Mr. Wetang'ula, how are you able to balance all these things, be it having this rich history in terms of the books that you read, your matters in court, the long drives, your managerial roles at the farm? I think it requires quite some discipline. How are you able to balance all these items?
Number one, it's you have to plan the proper usage of your time. Time is a very finite resource. And the management of time enables you to realize that within the 12 hours of daylight, when a lot of human activities happen, if you plan well, you are able to accomplish a lot. When you wake up in the morning, there are a number of things that you set out to do. Number one, you have to appear in the office, you have court meetings to attend to. And in the early years of your life, when you're a bit young, your memory serves you pretty well. You're able to remember all these things offhand. But you begin to realize the more you carry, you're taking on board, forgetfulness sets in, and then perhaps the not very important things, which are perhaps the very important things in life, get shunted to the side. And these are making time to talk to the people that are your friends, your family members, just having a conversation. You need to be able to fit everything appropriately as possible. The truth is, the workload is and will always be burgeoning at any stage. But you have to remember that your work does not define you. You are a human being at the end of the day, somebody completely and distinct and separate from your professional environment. What I tell myself is, and I've had a chance to converse this, how do you want to be defined at the end of the day? I do not think my profession should define me as a person as to who I am. Many a times I've been introduced by friends, or my friends will call me Wakili, and I'll quickly tell them quietly and tell them, I'm just Weta. I don't have to be Wakili. I don't need, that's what I do, but that is not who I am as a person. I'm a completely different person. Let's say it's a social event. But you need to be able to find that delicate balance between you give the best of yourself to your work and your clients. And equally, you're able to find a balance so that you live a complete life, so that you don't get affected at the end of the day by the nature of work that we do, because it is stressful, and you end up more often than not carrying the burden of your clients on your shoulders. So it's a lot. So planning your day becomes very, very key. And looking at the senior partners, Professor Githu Muigai and Mohammed, particularly Mohammed, he begins his day very early. He'll be able to have attended to his meetings as early as 6:30, 7 o'clock. If there's a court matter he's to attend to, he's done. And if there are client meetings later to be had from 11 o'clock onwards, he will have been able to attend. So you learn the skill that different people possess, and then you try and imbue it and incorporate it with your person and see what works best for you. So for me, being a night owl, the evening is now to sit down and think and start drafting. And the day is to plan and execute all my administrative work and deal with everything that comes my way. So it's planning and knowing your strengths, whether you're a morning person or you're a night person, when you work best. Yeah.
I read a lot of stoicism in how you go about your daily life. Is there any particular philosophical school of thought that you subscribe to?
It's in the process of development, but it's in the process of development, and I've been working hard at this in the sense that There are things that you can't control, and you have to learn to accept them as they are, and you have absolutely no control over them. And there are things that are within your grasp, and you can manage them. And I think that's the entire element of balance, where you find that this is possible or probable and I can do it. It's within your grasp. And there are other things that are out of your hands. So what you do or how you deal with them it's one foot after the other, a step at a time, trying to understand and comprehend how to deal with this. Yeah.
It's often said that you can only join the dots going backwards. When you join your dots going backwards, do you have any regrets in the path taken so far?
Joining the dots going backwards. I don't think so. Definitely. There are a number of things that perhaps go beyond this conversation, but are very personal that I wish I should have done and I didn't do them. But I'm also a realistic person in the sense that in the game of life, which we are all involved in, we're at a different journey at a different stage. So just simply walk yours. Don't try to walk backwards. Slow you may be, but don't try to walk backwards. So that is the mantra by which I go by. I'm at a different journey. Don't make comparisons of yourself with your other peers, what they're doing, what stage they're in. Walk your journey and be very comfortable in it. It brings a lot of peace and comforts to your person. Yeah.
If there's one thing that you could change in the legal profession right now, what would it be?
One thing I could change?
Yes.
Open up the courtrooms. Open up the courtrooms. As lawyers, we are social scientists, and by constantly meeting each other in the courtrooms, particularly the litigation, the dispute resolution lawyers, you create a social capital which you can constantly tap into to solve simple, minute problems. We are in the era where the Constitution encourages alternative forms of dispute resolution, mediation, and arbitration, and any other form that where people are constantly socializing on a different level. The meeting on the court corridors, the sharing a cup of coffee where you've been invited, where the cup of coffee or tea or a meal is being bought by a senior, is something that is a culture that should not be lost. And those avenues, now that it's the post-COVID season, should be encouraged again, because it is also a great learning experience and induction into the profession of the younger generation that is coming, joining the bar. I greatly sympathize with the younger cadre who have had to learn their litigation from virtual court processes. I mean, you cannot compare it to a situation where it's the Supreme Court sitting and there are different advocates are making very, very erudite arguments. By the time it reaches there, and it'll be the senior-most advocates making these presentations, and there'll be an array of people seated, of law students, legal assistants, even young advocates listening. I mean, that's what we used to do. We used to go to the Court of Appeal to see advocates argue. In this age and time of virtual court proceedings, I think it presents a completely different challenge. And even in situations where the matters are on the media, the advocacy is lost in the publicity and the camera lights. Yes. So anything, open the courts today so that we can meet there. But of course, create a bridge, a hybrid system between the two to ensure that it serves both interests that it's supposed to.
As we get to the conclusion, one of the fundamental concepts that you believe in and that you've shared even with myself is that everything is a matter of time. Perhaps could you tell us a little bit more about that?
The issue of time comes about when, in my view, when you begin to ask yourself, why do I exist? Why am I here? Why am I an advocate practicing what, so and so? It's the questions that you begin to ask over time. I mean, at first, life passes by. You're a child, you're a teenager, you're a young adult, but slowly your minds begin to open up. And I normally say the comprehension and understanding of why you exist on earth is that you need to be able to connect the dots. It begins to dawn on you that, for instance, I normally have been a firm believer in this, that you start to realize that there is a reason why you meet people, certain people. You happen to go to class with certain people you later meet in life at different stages. They are either judges, they are magistrates, they're in the corporate world, you are in litigation, you are a practicing advocate. And then there are those who walk away from the profession of the legal practice. They completely go and do something else. But slowly you begin to understand that if you connect the dots, it all adds up to something, and it's not a coincidence. And that explains that within the continuum of time, there's a role that you're supposed to play. And you must quickly find it and be able to fit in. And as you do so, it has to be fundamentally based on the fact that time is an extremely finite resource. And you have a short window period within which to achieve this. And you need to find. There are those who do it very, very quickly, within a very short period of time. And there are those who will do it over a longer period of time. Remember when I said that it's a journey, and we are on at different stages of it all. So it doesn't matter how long it will be, but it is a journey. But it is the understanding that once you're able to connect all these dots, whether backwards, as you say, or connect to be able to comprehend your existence, then it fundamentally explains why you exist in this continuum called time. Yes, but it's a philosophy that continues to develop, and with time, it will become refined, and the truth will fully be revealed to all at the end of the day.
Yours has been quite an industrious journey, getting to where you are. It's taken a lot of time, as you've put it. What would be your advice to younger lawyers, younger generations, and younger professionals?
To answer your question, particularly to the younger generation, it takes the pursuit of excellence in anything. Takes determination, dedication, and you have to give it your all, and it takes time. I will give an analogy. If you want to be the best professional footballer, then you need to invest in the preparation, the exercises, and understanding the nature of the game that will enable you to reach the pinnacle at the time when it's appropriate for you. For members of the legal profession, the mobility takes time, but be patient enough. Be patient enough. Don't cut corners. Don't be in a hurry. It all comes sooner than later, because the desire by many people, we are in a profession. We're in a profession where it's perception becomes fundamentally important, how to carry yourself, and even how you present yourself to clients. There'll be the strive to show that you're successful, but it is not the case. And you need to define also what your success is. But excellence in what you do, excellence in preparation for your cases, in understanding your clients' needs, and being able to fashion out a solution as and when they need it becomes key. And this should constantly be reminded to them that it's a profession that takes time and through training, and ultimately everybody will become good at what they do. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wetang'ula. It's about 7:15, and I know I am eating into your most active hours as a night owl.
Not really. Today, after this session, I'll just I'll take a break and maybe go watch a game of football. There's the FIFA World Cup ongoing. Watch a match and call it a night. Yeah. Oh, there's something perhaps I didn't tell you. 4 years ago, I started out playing golf.
Yeah.
Horrible amateur at it, but I really enjoyed. Can I tell you why?
Yeah.
I have come to realize that when you're playing golf, and if you want to enjoy the game of golf, then you have to think of absolutely nothing else apart from the sport. And that is the best way to take a break. Thank you very much.
Very interesting insights from our Deputy Managing Partner, Mr. Emmanuel Wetang'ula. So on that note, that brings us to the end of today's episode of In Chambers with Mohammed Muigai. I have been your host, Patrick Nguri. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
Thank you.
You're right. Have a lovely evening.
You too.
Thank you.